Today I'm going to be measuring my patient here for her wheelchair. So the first thing I'm going to have her do is I'm going to have her lift up her legs to about 90 degrees, and I'm going to measure her from her popliteal fossa here to her seat. And now that is about 15.5 inches. At the end I'm going to minus 2 inches so that for comfort her leg, the popliteal fossa, doesn't rub right up against the edge of the seat. So I would do both legs for all of these, but I am just going to do one right now for demonstration purposes. So go ahead and sit back up. The second thing I'm going to have her do, I'm going to measure her for her seat width. So go ahead and have a seat up there. I'm going to measure her from the widest points of her hips. And then at the end I'm going to add 2 inches because she's still growing. And that is for comfort so that the sides of her legs don't rub up against the chair. And that one was about 14 inches. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure her leg rest length. So if you can go ahead and flex your foot here for me. I'm going to measure from her popliteal fossa to the sole of her foot. And that's about 16 inches. I would also minus the width of a compression cushion to get an accurate reading, but since she's not on one, then I won't bother with that. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have her do her seat height. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure, go ahead and posture, sit nice. I'm going to measure from her axle, which is her armpit, down to her seat. And that's about 18 inches. At the end I'm going to minus 4 inches for an accurate seat height. I could also do it from her inferior angle so I wouldn't have to minus anything. And she does not need any extra support, so I won't bother measuring from the crown of her head down to her seat, which is what I would end up doing anyway. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure her armrest height. So I'm going to have her elbow at 90 degrees. Very good. And I'm going to measure from her olecranon process to her seat. Which is about 9 inches. And I would add about 1 or 2 inches just for comfort's sake at the end. So the last thing we're going to do is we're going to measure her seat to floor height. And so if she was propelling by foot, then I would just use the leg rest length. But since she's not, I'm going to have the leg rest length plus 2 inches to get an accurate reading. So that is all for the wheelchair measurements, and she is all ready for her wheelchair.